How you doing, my friends? It's Covey 1969. This is the Newfie channel. So what do we have to talk about now? I'd like to talk about the indebtedness that we are in. We live in a debt society where whole countries are in debt. And they make claims that they're doing well, but when you actually look at the fiscal and everything and all aspects of the monetary, you realize that your countries are in debt. We live in a debted society. Even the paper money that you hold in your hand, it says directly on your money, this is legal tender. And when you look further in understanding, we live in a debt society. Money is created instantly through loans that the banks give. That is where your money comes from. Why am I going over this? Many have heard of this already. Well, I'm here to point out some of the fucking ridiculous aspects that really irks the shit out of me. Like, I see our society, because we live in an indebted society, we live in a society where we always punish the people. Where is the reward system? We can't have a reward system in an indebted society, obviously, right? How can you reward anybody if we're all continually going into debt? They're taking more and more of your pieces of a pie, tiny bits as the time periods go along. Hopefully you won't notice until it's so far gone that the separation of money will be obvious to all of you, but it's not yet there. This frustration that I see is here in England. They're talking about obesity issues and how they want to deal with these issues. And my frustration is we don't work in a system, again, with a reward system giving people benefit for working hard in that. We want to punish them. And I know some of you will say, yes, these obese people and what their plans to do are good, because financially they're going to save their country $5 billion. Their plans and proposal is to take people who are obese and cannot control their eating habits, so somebody must be monitoring them, and they're on the dole or welfare or whatever you want to call it, where the government is paying your way because you can't get jobs, there's not enough employment, but you're obese too. So being obese puts you in a different category. We know there's crack users, heroin addicts, all of these different things, alcoholics, who are also on the dole and welfare, and they'll walk along and have no worries in that. And I'm not trying to point a direction to attack these people. I just want people to put it into their minds that those of you that may be in that situation or have been in that situation in the past, trying to get above where you had a rough time through life, and you use the government as a stepping stone to help you and your family to get forward, as it's been put there in place there for on hard times. And now they want the permission to come and monitor you and make sure. And if you're not, their plan is to cut back on your finances. They're going to give you less money. Why? Because what? I think maybe you can get less food out of it. I'm not sure on all aspects, but it's dangerous and it's scary for the people who are obese. My frustration is because we live in a country where we live in a world where we don't give any responsibility to the countries for their actions and how they perceived and put some of these people in that place. Trans fats, saturated fats. Back in the 80s, when I was growing up, the good people in that were told by the scientists at the time that what? Trans fats were good, right? And saturated fats were poisonous, nasty things, and worse than trans fats and will kill us faster. So, the good people who wanted to save the children, hey, let's save the children through ignorance, didn't look any further, can't because they don't know anything, we're all dumb cows, following the lead intelligence who tell us this is the way it is and this is correct and this is true. I'd still like to know who funded this aspect back then. But here we have great groups of families making their way and attacking, ma and pa restaurants and that, large corporations. They traded over to the trans fats, no problem. Financially, it was not a difficulty for them to work it out. Smaller companies, a lot more difficult. It had to do with the flavor of their food. They were frustrated, so they're forced. Families got together, groups of people, and said, you better get that out of that restaurant or we're going to shut you down. And they did this. Actual groups of people out of there. Let's go to the politician. Let's cry. Here we are, 30 years later. What do we know now? What do we know about trans fats? Ooh, trans fats are bad. What, trans fats? No, we don't want trans fats. Get them out of the donuts. Get them out of everything. We want saturated fats. What changed? Who takes the responsibility for this? And all the people who got obese in the last 30 years based on this knowledge, because we know trans fats are much worse and cause much more harm. And I'm not just saying that's an only example, but you have to take some of these responsibilities. A lot of these people who are children, including myself, I had obesity issues twice in my life where I tipped over 300 pounds. It was a fight.
Councils are increasingly using smart cards at leisure centres. Many already collect data on how many times we exercise. Today's report says there could be a price to pay for those on benefits who don't make it to the gym.
Clearly there is a balance between carrot and stick here, and I think the beauty of this is that it will be up to individual local authorities how they achieve that balance, how far they want to incentivise, how far they want to sort of take things away. That's a localist approach. It will be different for different local authorities according to their politics, according to their local context, and that's appropriate.
From this April, councils have new powers over public health, deciding locally how best to prevent disease and illness, as well as tackling problems like obesity. The most eye-catching suggestion in today's report is the idea of linking benefit payments to healthy behaviour. It also says more GPs should prescribe leisure activities for some conditions, and there's a call for councils to start investing more in preventative care. Westminster Council says this is not about penalising people, but encouraging them to lead healthier lifestyles. But linking the amount they're paid in benefits to the number of times they come to the gym every month is very controversial.
This is an incoherent approach, and it's actually putting even greater pressure on people on benefits. And we know that people on benefits are under big stress.
So what do council taxpayers in Westminster think of the idea?
It'll become a nanny state, ordering people to take certain actions. That's absolutely ridiculous.
I have a bit of sympathy with that. I think personal fitness is a good aim.
If they can't go to work because of them being obese or something like that, and there is a help that they can put this right, well, they should take the help.
And even Westminster Council says cutting benefits for those who don't work out is just one suggestion, not firm policy. Mike Sargent, BBC News.
So, I want people of you who think that this is a good idea to take it a step further and think about how you've just agreed to allow government to go into the lives of somebody who couldn't control their eating habit, obesity took over, and punish them for that fact that if they can't control it, that they have to exercise so much. That's what that's the whole plan. We're going to make these people exercise the crap out of, and if they don't, we'll cut their fundings or cut partial of their fundings to punish them. So we make sure that they're losing weight. And I know that it's in the best interest for some people. I mean, in some instances, I think that it's people see it as a good thing because they want to help those people by forcing them, frustratingly. And the money saved, obviously. There'll be a huge portion of money saved by the country and whatnot. But we live in a debt society, so they're going to cut something later. Once they do this, it's not going to be enough. Later on, they're going to have to come up with a new solution. What would be that new solution? Well, the people who are on social services, welfare, the dole, whatever you want to call it, they have to go to the government and beg for the money, and they're not obese. But since we've already given permission to walk into people's lives who have obesity issues, what's to stop them from walking into your lives, testing your blood every day to make sure that you don't have anything? Because they're giving you the money, right, to put your roof over your head, because we live in an indebted society. We don't teach our people to become self-sustaining. We bring them down to slaves of society. It's built to make it work this way. It is made to work this way. So now you're at home and you're trying to go through school and make it through life. You had a difficulty. You couldn't find employment. You went to the government for help. So literally you're going to want to starve before you go to the government, because they're going to not stop there. Later on they'll want to come into your lives, and they'll probably want to check out your receipts and see what you purchased that through your groceries. That if maybe you purchased an item that was not recommended, that maybe that later on that you're not listening for the things that you purchase with the money that they give you, because it's their money. They feel it's their right to tell you how to spend it next, right? Well, you shouldn't be buying hair, makeup stuff. You should be buying food, and essential since you're in that position, and we have the right to choose it. How do you feel about that? It's ridiculous because we live in an indebted society. It's a broken society. We don't live in a society where we work towards... There's people around, everywhere around you, making money. Yet, we have massive debt in every country. How? Where's this debt coming from? The compounded interest that's added to this debt, this huge debt that you're paying on, is insane. That in 30 and 40 years, your grandchildren may have to work 3 jobs just to cover basic livings, because the inflation, as they keep pushing the money out, it waters down. Your dollar, American dollar, for example, in the early 1900s was close to $1. You're working at about 4 cents on its value now for the purchasing power it has. So if we want to get out of this problem, it's very simple, and everybody has the answer, but can it be made? I mean, people are terrified of change. They're like, oh my God, if we try to do this, the whole country could collapse on trying to do this idea. Then their fear is, even though there's a fiscal cliff coming, that money is watered down, that eventually it's going to, if the system doesn't collapse, the people will turn eventually, because they're going to be slaves to society, working forever to never own even a house. Houses that'll cost $1 million that used to cost $30,000. My condo here, $42,000. It went up to $230,000 just a small handful of years ago. It's dropped back down again, thankfully, but it's still, you know, $160,000. That's a 4 times increase, and we're talking in 15 years. There are children out there coming out of college, out of university, that used to, for us, to purchase our home at $42,000, have to spend, you know, $160,000. Some people in this place, $180,000, $200,000. A house is $300,000 minimum and that's for a basic shitty house. $300,000 puts them in debt, and with compounded interest that everybody gets nailed by and fucking raped by, you end up spending over $500,000 easily, depending on your person, if you quick it. But what they do, as the banks are so generous, is they allow us to take a huge portion of sum like this and pay it over a period of 30 years, you know, where you spend the first 10 years paying the interest. They literally haven't even touched on the house almost, all the home that you own, and you're just paying back the loan itself for fucking years. Come on! This is an insane society. Just change it. Start allowing our own countries to print our own money, not private banks. It is the private banks that create the debt that we have. Canada's debt was $4 billion in 1972. In just 30 years, less than 30 years, we went from $4 billion to $583 billion. From 1860s or something, it was $1 billion, somewhere around then. Because of the world wars, it went to $4 billion, and it stayed that way. It didn't even move. We built our railroads, we built our highways, the traffics. The money that we took from our own, that we created of our own, was used to build the infrastructure of our own oils. And then some idiot politicians, and we vote people in thinking they're Superman. All these politicians have all the knowledge, they have all the understanding, they have all the lead. Ask one of them where money comes from and see if they have the answer. 99% of them, for the years, didn't have a clue. Nobody did. That was the problem, is that everybody thought they already knew. They understood it all. We're being raped, people. Whoever owns those private banks that our own country loans money from, and that we create the money that puts into the infrastructure by your own loan. When you sign that paper, you silly people. If you can't understand that, man, I just don't. It just blows my mind. And this is our outcome. Obesity, allowing countries to come into your homes and punish you, and it's going to grow. You'll be in the biggest nanny state of the fucking world, man. Every country will be a nanny state. They've made a debted society so they can tell you how to bring your children up, what to wear, what to believe. You're a puppet and you don't even know it. They control your media. They tell you every aspect of what to believe. And you don't even take 2 seconds out to go, should I believe this? Should I question this? No. You go on with life and that becomes your belief and that's it. Our beliefs define who we are. When people say you cannot change, I say, screw you, because I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. It was through knowledge and understanding that freed me and took the many fears from my life and opened a whole door of understanding. Go out and learn. Knowledge is the whole understanding to release the fear that holds you down. Because when people attack you now, you don't have to be ignorant. You can actually stand your grounds and say, I'm sorry, but I know you're wrong. And I couldn't say that before because I didn't know. God bless each and every one of you, and all those your heart touches.